ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වරට SLT 4G වෙතින් දැන් Pure TV නරඹන්න. ඉදිරියටම ගෙන යන SLT 4G.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Homestay. Several districts, including Colombo, sees the curfew extended as Sri Lanka's COVID-19 positive cases rise to 77. Don't panic. Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited gives assurances of ample fuel stocks.
We would like to say, as usual, we have more than 20 days of stock in our hand, and in the meantime there are 2 shipments is getting discharged.
Truth or hype? US President Donald Trump's claim of malaria drugs being effective in fight against COVID-19 gains traction. All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Saturday the 21st of March 2020.
SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamnika Naika. Let's start with your local stories. Now, the island-wide curfew, which is currently in effect, will be extended in several districts until Tuesday. The government made several amendments to the earlier plan on the island-wide curfew today, with Colombo, Gampaha and Puttlam being singled out for a curfew extension. In other areas of the country, the curfew will be lifted at 6 a.m. on Monday as planned earlier, before being reimposed later in the day.
The ongoing curfew in districts of Colombo, Gampaha and Puttlam is extended until 6 a.m. on Tuesday the 24th. Curfew for these 3 districts will be reinforced at 2 p.m. on the same day. In the meantime, the curfew for other remaining districts in the island will be lifted at 6 a.m. on Monday, the 23rd, as planned earlier, but will be reimposed at 2 p.m. on the same day and be in effect until 6 a.m. on Tuesday, the 24th. During curfew hours, all people are advised to remain indoors and maintain a minimum distance of 1 meter from one another. The government also announced the closure of all liquor shops in the island at all times when the curfew is lifted. The police has been instructed to make facilities for the farming community to engage in their cultivation activities without any disruption. As there are adequate stocks of food and other essential items, the government has advised the public not to panic buy, while informing that facilities for transporting these items have been ensured.
Now, in the meantime, Sri Lanka is seeing a steady rise in the number of COVID-19 infections as the island reported 5 new cases today, increasing the overall number of infections to 77. The government, meanwhile, continues to pull its trump cards to keep a possible outbreak of this global pandemic away from the country's shores. With the island-wide curfew still in effect, legal action was taken against those who violated curfew laws, with 130 persons falling foul.
The number of people infected with the coronavirus COVID-19 has now risen to 77, with the addition of 5 fresh cases during the course of today. According to a report released by the epidemiology unit this morning, 25 that of the identified patients are detected from within the quarantine facilities. 16 among the confirmed cases are from the district of Colombo, while 10 are from Gampaha. 6 cases have been confirmed from the Puttlam district. 4 people have been tested positive in the Kaluthara district, while Ratnapura district confirmed 3. Districts of Kurunagala, Galle, Batiklo and Badulla, meanwhile, reported 1 case each. The total number of infections also include 3 foreigners. 245 people are now under medical supervision for having been suspected of contracting the virus. Meanwhile, a resident of Maravilla who had arrived from Italy on the 11th of this month had self-quarantined himself for 14 days under the supervision of the Mahaweva public health inspectors. With the onset of COVID-19 symptoms, he was admitted to Kurunegala Hospital today. An English couple accommodated at a hotel in Madampe was also subjected to the self-quarantine process under the supervision of public health inspectors. With an island-wide curfew being in effect, Deputy Inspector General of Police Ajit Rohana says legal action will be taken against those who flout curfew laws. Accordingly, police arrested 130 individuals across 31 police divisions over the offence. 8 people were arrested in Bandaravilla last night for unnecessary loitering around in a playground and being under the influence of alcohol, violating the laws of curfew. Meanwhile, upon instructions of the commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, 11th and 12th wards of the National Hospital for Respiratory Diseases in Valisara was modernised to treat COVID-19 patients. The Sri Lanka Air Force has also taken steps to construct a temporary building complex at the Infectious Diseases Hospital in Angoda. The new complex is set to be handed over in 14 days to treat patients of novel coronavirus. Commander of the Air Force, Air Marshal Sumangala Dias, was on site today to inspect the progress of the work. Meanwhile, the government has taken steps to develop the Mullairiyawa Base Hospital as a specialised hospital to treat COVID-19 infected patients. Health Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi inspected the hospital today. The government also announced to develop the Homagama Base Hospital to work as a special hospital for the treatment of COVID-19 infected patients from today onwards. Meanwhile, a donation of medical equipment worth 105 million rupees was granted to Sri Lanka by the World Health Organization and the Government of Australia. Although there is a curfew in effect, entities such as ports are operational. As such, the Colombo port was disinfected by the Sri Lanka Navy in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Many public venues in the country were disinfected today. In another development, 10 people who had come into contact with the first coronavirus positive patient in the country, the tour guide, were released today after being in quarantine for 14 days. Meanwhile, the police have also arrested a group of unauthorized gem miners in the area of Hatton. In Himmatagama, police found 4 youths with ice and heroin in possession while riding their motorbikes during curfew hours. In Kegol, 2 persons were arrested for violating the Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance.
Now, in face of the coronavirus COVID-19, a global pandemic which took the world by storm, Executive Director of Citrus Vaskadua Dilip Jayavir offers the 150-room resort to be used as a quarantine centre by the national operations in the fight against the deadly virus. In a letter to the Commander of the Army, he highlights the valiant efforts made by the government, the health sector and the security forces to control the situation in the country. Jayavira says that the board made the move taking into account the current crisis faced by the nation and the world at large. The letter goes on to say that if authorities decide to use the resort temporarily, it will be completely decontaminated in keeping with international standards before commencing usual resort operations. When the announcement was made yesterday morning that an island-wide curfew will be in effect from 6 p.m, panic-stricken people rushed to refueling stations to fill up their tanks. The frenzy resulted in some refueling stations running out of fuel as yesterday's sales outstripped usual daily sales. The panic purchase of fuel, however, led to the question, what use is there in filling up tanks if there is a curfew in effect? In any case, the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited moved to alleviate any lingering doubts of a possible fuel shortage in the country as he visited the installation plant in Kolonnawa last evening.
With the announcement of curfew, there is an unnecessary panic among the people of Sri Lanka. We would like to say, as usual, we have more than 20 days of stock in our hand, and in the meantime there are 2 shipment is getting discharged. Unnecessary panic at the moment. We humbly request people to don't panic unnecessary and get into the sheds and empty the sheds. If you do that, in case of emergency, even an ambulance or police vehicle or army vehicle will not be able to pump their petrol if required. So I am humbly requesting, don't panic. We have enough and more stock as usual.
The chairman also touched on the institution's ability to provide fuel to refueling stations upon request.
කොළොන්නාව මුතුරාජවල ගබඩාවට අමතරව අපි ගාව ගබඩා තියෙනවා, ඩිපෝස් තියෙනවා 11ක් රට වටේ. ඒ රට වටේ තියෙන ඩිපෝ 11ම අපිට ස්ටොක් තියෙනවා. අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේ ඕනෑම ෂෙඩ් එකකට ඉල්ලලා පැය 24ක් තුල ඕනෑම තැනකට ලබා දීමේ හැකියාව අප ආයතනයක් ලෙස අපිට තියෙනවා. අපි ඒක ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම සඳහා විශේෂ වැඩපිළිවෙලක් මේ දවස්වල යොදවාගෙන තියෙනවා. ඒ හින්දා අපිට ඕනම අවස්ථාවක ලබා දෙන්න පුළුවන් ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉල්ලුවතින්.
Now, taking a look at the global COVID-19 situation, Italy's coronavirus situation is worsening as the country reported a staggering 627 new deaths in 24 hours. The figure is also the highest single-day death toll ever since the COVID-19 outbreak began in China. With that, Italy has now breached 4,000 in deaths, which easily outstrips China's tally. Elsewhere in Spain, the virus continues to tighten its hold along with France. Meanwhile, New Zealand reported its first community-based transmissions.
COVID-19, the most feared pandemic in world's recent history, has only spared a handful of countries as it continues to gut countries' economies and, more importantly, lives. The virus has now reached 186 countries, killing 11,875 people, leaving over 285,000 people infected. It must also be said that 93,584 people have also overcome the virus. Though close to 100,000 people have recovered from COVID-19, the number of deaths keep rising on a daily basis. In that respect, Italy is the worst hit. 627 new deaths were reported from the country overnight, marking the highest single-day death toll since the outbreak began in China almost months ago. That pushed Italy's overall death toll to 4,032. Even China's number of total fatalities don't come close to 4,000, depicting the rampant nature of the virus. What's more, Italy's number of confirmed COVID-19 infections now stand at 47,021, which is just over half of China's figure. Meanwhile, Spain, the second worst hit country in Europe, saw its death toll rise to 1,326. With the entire Europe feeling the ill effects of the virus, France, which shares borders with Italy and Spain, reported 78 new deaths from COVID-19, taking the country's total COVID-19 related fatalities to 450. It is an increase of 21%, however, the percentage is lower than what was reported over the last 2 days. France's health agency director said that the number of cases had risen to 12,612, up from 10,995 on Thursday, which is a rise of 15% in 24 hours. In the United Kingdom, there are 3,983 positive COVID-19 infections, and the number of people perished is recorded as 177. However, the head of research and development of the Public Health of England's Porton Town, Professor Miles Carroll, says that they were working with a new pathogen, but if it behaves similarly to related pathogens, there's a very good chance that a vaccine can be found in the near future, and that despite the many years taken for the development of a licensed vaccine, the time frame for this could be brought down to a year. In the meantime, US President Donald Trump announced yesterday that he had put the Wartime Defense Production Act into action to aid the fight against coronavirus, after saying earlier this week he would invoke the measure when needed. The measure is meant to allow the US government to speed production of masks, respirators, ventilators and other equipment necessary to fight the spread of the COVID-19. While the figures on the number of infected COVID-19 cases reported from the country rose by 391, pushing the total to 19,774, 19 new deaths were recorded, spiking the country's death toll to 275. In the Middle East, Iran continues to be the worst affected country, while also occupying the third spot on the list of global COVID-19 fatalities. 123 new deaths were reported from the Islamic Republic, which places the overall death toll there at 1,556, putting the country on third on the list of global fatalities. The country's number of positive infections meanwhile stand at 20,610. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said that social distancing measures, including travel restrictions, will apply for only 2 to 3 weeks, as he expects the crisis to ease by then. The virus outbreak's previous epicenter, the city of Wuhan in China, reported no new or suspected cases again for a third consecutive day. Overall, however, China reported 41 new cases and 7 new deaths, bringing China's total number of cases to 81,008 and deaths to 3,255. It, however, has to be said that all 7 new deaths are imported cases. Meanwhile, South Korea also continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. The country's death toll rose to 102, while the number of infections hit 8,799. The world's second largest population, India, meanwhile, are accused of not performing enough tests on people to identify carriers of the virus. Indian authorities claim that the virus has not spread within communities. That said, the state of Tamil Nadu, however, shut its borders with Kerala, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. India's COVID-19 related deaths remain at 5, but 34 new cases were reported, sending the overall number of infections to 283. Elsewhere in Asia, Thailand reported its largest daily increase in coronavirus infections, with 89 new cases taking the national tally to 411. A public health ministry spokesman said the new cases were linked to earlier infections from a boxing match, an entertainment complex and a religious gathering in neighbouring Malaysia. The country has reported 1 death in the outbreak. In Indonesia, where a state of emergency is in effect for 2 weeks starting yesterday, 6 new deaths were reported, sending the death toll to 38. In the meantime, for the first time in New Zealand, health authorities claim that there could be a local outbreak. Health authorities announced 30 new cases of coronavirus infection today, bringing the number of confirmed cases to 52. They say 2 of the cases cannot be linked immediately to overseas travel. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern introduced a new alert system, placing the country at 2 on a scale where 4 is the highest.
We'll see you again shortly. Stay tuned.
අවශ්‍යය ඔබේ මුළු පවුලම 100ට 100 දක්වා විෂබීජවලින් ආරක්ෂා කර දේ.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, following US President Donald Trump's comments that a malaria drug can be used to treat COVID-19 patients, hospitals in the US have started to stockpile the drug. But the top infectious disease expert in the US government poured cold water over the US president's suggestion yesterday. In case the malaria drug can be used in the fight against COVID-19, the state pharmaceutical corporation here in Sri Lanka expresses readiness to provide the drug if it gets the go-ahead.
US President Donald Trump had his audience in disbelief on Thursday when he announced that a drug used in malaria treatment will be made available immediately to fight the COVID-19 outbreak.
And as you know, earlier this week we began the first clinical trial of a vaccine candidate for the virus, and that was launched in record time. A drug called chloroquine, and some people would add to it hydroxychloroquine. So chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine. Now this is a common malaria drug. It's also a drug used for, we're going to be able to make that drug available almost immediately. So we're going to be able to make that drug available by prescription.
In the short term, we're looking at drugs that are already approved for other indications. So they're already approved, as the president said, for other diseases. As an example, many Americans have read studies and heard media reports about this drug chloroquine, which is an anti-malarial drug. It's already approved, as the president said, for the treatment of malaria as well as an arthritis condition. That's a drug that the president has directed us to take a closer look at as to whether an expanded use approach to that could be done to actually see if that benefits patients. And again, we want to do that in the setting of a clinical trial, a large, pragmatic clinical trial, to actually gather that information and answer the question that needs to be answered and asked and answered.
Following his announcement, hospitals have been rushing to stockpile the decades-old anti-malarial drug as a treatment for the new coronavirus. Reports say that hydroxychloroquine is being snapped up by medical systems at more than twice the typical pace. With that being the case, however, US's top infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci, in the presence of President Trump, poured cold water over the effectiveness of the drug in tackling the rapidly spreading pandemic.
Yesterday, there has been some promise with hydroxychloroquine, this potential therapy for people who are infected with coronavirus. Is there any evidence to suggest that, as with malaria, it might be used as a prophylaxis against COVID-19?
No, the answer is no. And the evidence that you're talking about, John, is anecdotal evidence. So as the commissioner of FDA and the president mentioned yesterday, we're trying to strike a balance between making something with a potential of an effect to the American people available at the same time that we do it under the auspices of a protocol that would give us information to determine if it's truly safe and truly effective. But the information that you're referring to specifically is anecdotal. It was not done in a controlled clinical trial, so you really can't make any definitive statement about it.
In the meantime, Chairman of the State Pharmaceutical Corporation, Dr. Prasanna Gunasena, stated that the stocks of the malaria drug is available if the medicine is recommended by local medical authorities.
මේකේ කොටස් දෙකක් තියෙනවා. එක වර්ගයක් තමයි ක්ලෝරොක්වින් ෆොස්ෆේට් කියන එක. අනිත් කොටස තමයි හයිඩ්‍රොක්සි ක්ලෝරොක්වින් කියන එක. මේ ඖෂධ දෙකම තවම තහවුරු කළ ප්‍රතිකාරයක් හැටියට සොයාගෙන නැහැ. නමුත් ඇතැම් ස්ථානවලදී මේ රෝගය සඳහා මෙය ප්‍රෙස්ක්‍රයිබ් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ වෛද්‍යවරු ලියලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ නිසා ලංකාවේ වෛද්‍ය මණ්ඩලය විසින් මේ ඖෂධය තහවුරු කරලා මේක දෙන්න කියලා නියෝග කරොත් ඒ දීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය වන්නා වූ සියලුම ඖෂධ ප්‍රමාණ මිලියන 2.5කට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් අද අප සතුව තියෙනවා. මේ ඖෂධය ලංකාවේ දීමට නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම වෛද්‍ය මණ්ඩලය විසින් ඒ දිය යුත්තේ කාටද කොපමණ ප්‍රමාණයක්ද කොයි ආකාරයෙන්ද කියන එක තීන්දුව කළා මේක දැනුම් දෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ නිසා මම කියනවා මේ ෆාමසි වල තියෙනවා නම් මේ ඖෂධ නිකන් එනේන අයට දෙන්න එපා. මොකද එහෙම දුන්නොත් මේකෙන් අනවශ්‍ය ප්‍රතිඵල අපිට ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
In this backdrop, Professor Channa Jayasumana stated that the drugs remdesivir, quinine or the hydroxychloroquine are approved by the US Food and Drugs Authority, but however the drugs are not a permanent cure but can be used to control the pandemic.
Investigators have found 2 drugs which are used for some other purposes are effective in controlling coronavirus. One is remdesivir. It is an antiviral drug which was used to control Ebola epidemic in African continent. The other one is antimalarial drug quinine and hydroxyquinine. Those are recommended by the Food and Drug Authority of US to control the coronavirus, and it has an unofficial usage in China, Italy and South Korea. But we should keep in mind that this is not a permanent cure for coronavirus or the corona fever, but it has limited usage to control the outbreak or the pandemic. So people are advised to follow all the advices given by the government to control the coronavirus, and wrong message should not be taken as that this is not a permanent cure but a limited usage of a drug which is used for some other purpose to control the epidemic.
Now, the International Monetary Fund observes the impact of the coronavirus to be severe for the global economy. It says that the global coronavirus pandemic will be quite severe, but a long expansionary period and high employment rates means the global economy should bring the current shock down. Director of the Strategy Policy and Review Department of the IMF said in a podcast that the main goal for governments should be to limit the spread of the virus in a way that provides confidence that the economic shock will be temporary. He said banks and governments have taken unprecedented measures to provide liquidity to markets and keep them functioning, and that and maybe more will be needed, but emphasized on the fact that the steps that have been taken should be coordinated internationally to amplify their effect. Now, the German government is readying stimulus measures requiring about 350 billion euros in net new debt to counter the coronavirus crisis. The package will include a supplementary government budget of about 150 billion euros, 100 billion euros for an economic stability fund that can take direct equity stakes in companies and 100 billion euros in credit to public sector development banks Bank KfW for loans to struggling businesses. Final details of the measures are being discussed by ministers over the weekend. We'll see you again after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, North Korea has fired 2 projectiles into the sea off the east coast of the Korean peninsula. South Korean news agency Yonhap reported on it, citing the country's joint chiefs of staff. According to the South Korea's military, the projectiles appeared to be short-range ballistic missiles, and they flew for 410 kilometers with a maximum altitude of around 50 kilometers. Japan's Coast Guard said that North Korea appeared to have fired a missile which landed outside Japan's exclusive economic zone waters. According to South Korea's military, North Korea launched multiple projectiles into the sea earlier this month as part of firing drills, drawing US and Chinese appeals for Pyongyang to return to talks on ending its nuclear and missile programs. Earlier today, state media KCNA said North Korean leader Kim Jong-un guided an artillery fire competition between combined units of the North Korean army yesterday. North Korea also announced today that it will hold a session of the Supreme People's Assembly, its legislature, which analysts had said would involve gathering of almost 700 of the country's leaders in one spot as the coronavirus spreads worldwide. Grammy Award-winning singer Kenny Rogers has passed away at the age of 81. The musician is best known for songs like The Gambler and Islands in the Stream. According to a statement released by his family, the country music star, died of natural causes. After beginning his career in the 1950s with the jazz group, Rogers went solo in the 1970s and released his breakthrough single Lucille in 1977. Rogers is a prominent member of the Country Music Hall of Fame and also shared the stage with Dolly Parton, his partner in the 1982 duet Islands in the Stream. The country music singer embarked on a world farewell tour in 2016, but in April 2018 he cancelled the last few shows, citing a series of health challenges.
He's an actor, a best-selling author, and a humanitarian, and now
USA Track and Field, the governing body of American athletics, today called for a postponement of the Tokyo Olympics. The federation, in a letter to the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee chief executive, asked the International Olympic Committee to postpone the games, which are scheduled to run from July 24th to August 9th. The US Track and Field Federation joined another leading US Olympic sport, USA Swimming, in seeking a delay to the Games. The IOC has pressed on during the health crisis, saying the Games will go ahead as scheduled. The issue has sharply divided athletics globally, and USATF said that no decision should be made at the expense of the safety and well-being of their athletes. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.